Hey everyone, Vortex TCG here, and today I'm going to be showcasing you a brand new set of local gameplay videos featuring Jesmon. Jesmon is a deck that I showcased on the channel once, and I didn't really showcase it again, even though I had all the deck built. So I thought it would be a good way to end BT10 for me by playing some Jesmon for you guys. And if you enjoyed this gameplay video, please do check out the channel and subscribe for more Digimon content. So I have a pretty decent start here with the BeelStarmon, and my opponent is forced to play a level 4 from his hand. So not a great start for him, and I think here I'm just explaining something outside of the game essentially, because he was asking about something about one of the videos that I made, because we had a gameplay video about a month or two ago. And he was just curious about, what he could have done better in that situation. But yeah, so I go into a Huckmon here, get my search, and then go into a BeelStarmon for turn. So, and then he goes into an Infomon for 5. So he's clearly bricking, unfortunately. Not really much he can do, but hopefully he'll be able to unbrick as the game goes on. So here, I make a bit of a mistake because I don't know what kind of removal Diaboromon has, essentially. So I could be walking myself into a problematic situation here. So I go to the Savior Huckmon here. Definitely in hindsight, I should just do this in raising because I'm not going to be able to attack this turn. And I'm also, it could be vulnerable to potentially, I think it's Catastrophe Cannon and other option cards. So he goes into a Diaboromon here and he gets a token, and then he ends his turn by going into Izzy and Joe. So I go into my turn, go into a Huckmon in raising. But at this point I'm building up a pretty decent hand, and I'm just considering what I need to do next because this token and Diaboromon could be quite problematic in the future. So here I'm going to go probably into the Jesmon because we need to get the swing on, and we also need to provide some board presence. So I pass him to 2, I swing into security, and then I start using my effects. So I go for the Diaboromon, which allows me to draw an additional card. I then go into, I believe, the Savior Huckmon effect, which allows me to play a System on Blanc. I then use the BeelStarmon inheritable to delete the token because it's 3k. I'm now just considering what else I'd like to do. So I go into I believe I go into the CL, which allows me to Digivolve for free. Well, not for free, but paying its cost. So I go into the Jesmon X antibody, which allows me to gain a memory. And then I also get to play another system on, and then all my guys get 2k DP. And so I play another system on CL, which then goes to 0, so it's still my turn, but I'm still swinging for 2 checks, and so the checks go through. And now at this point I'm just considering how I want to end my turn because there could potentially be more answers in the future, and I think I make a pretty big misplay here. What I end up doing is going to DNA Digievolution into the Chimeramon here. The reason why I thought I'd do this is because I felt like I could put him on a clock by doing this, but being realistic, I think this is a misplay because if there is an answer in security, I'm essentially just open myself up to it a lot here. And so I swing at security, and as you can see, it is Catastrophe Cannon. So my Jesmon stack is actually going to Digivolve 2 and make another Diaboromon token. So not a great situation I want to be in. I also make a pretty big misplay here. The X antibody allows me to allow all my Digimon to attack unsuspended Digimon. So in this situation, I probably should have swung the BeelStarmon into the token here, because then he doesn't get any follow-up and he doesn't have any token synergy going forward. But I completely forgot about that. I'm still, even though this deck isn't new or anything like that, I'm still realizing that these little synergies end up mattering quite a bit. So he swings into security, and it unfortunately dies to the system on CL. Now, got a pretty big board here. I've got a blocker, so in a bit of a worrying situation here. And this is another misplay for the Chimeramon, because essentially what I've done here is that I forced myself to use the Blanc to block, but if I had both CLs available, they could also be blockers, so I lose my stack here, and I didn't really gain much from it, essentially. My opponent passes me to 3, and then I draw for turn, but at this point, I'm pretty good because he has 2 security and I have 3 Digimon, so essentially I can close the game out here. It just depends if there's going to be something in security that is going to stop me from doing that. And so I think here we're just talking about the Armageddonmon play, about he could have potentially done more damage on his turn. And so I swing a security, it's a Monzemon, I swing a security again, it's a Shademon, and it's a blocker. So now I do have the answers in hand though, so I go to the Savior Huckmon, and then I will then go into the Jesmon here, and essentially as I have the Bao Huckmon as an inheritable here, I get to delete a 5k DP or less, and that Shademon is 5k DP, so not the greatest situation for my opponent here. Could have definitely won the game in certain situations, but unfortunately it just wasn't enough. So I swing into security, I then use the Jesmon effects to play a Blanc, which allows me to draw a card, and then I use Bao Huckmon to delete the Shademon and swing for game. Anyways, let's get into game 2, and I get to start off first here. My opponent wanted to go second, I guess because he wants to have the memory on his turn. So I go into a Huckmon and Huckmon in play, and I get a pretty good search. I get the System on CL, and I also get the Jesmon X antibody. So I'm pretty sure I have the stack at this point. It's just I think I was lacking Systemons in my opening hand. So my opponent gets to start off with an errata, but unfortunately he doesn't have a level 3 again, so he has to pass. So not a great start, especially one you don't want to see this in Diaboromon. You want to get to your big guy as soon as possible, but unfortunately it's just not the case this time, I guess. So I go into a Bao Huckmon and then the option card, which allows me to add the Jesmon and then trash the rest. So not really got any additional system ones in the trash that I can't play from, so a bit annoying. But I reduced the cost by 1 to go into the Savior Huckmon, and then I go into the Jesmon to go to 4. Swing into security, get to draw 1 from Gurumon, and then I also will play the System 1 CL, which allows me to Digivolve 1, and then so I will go into the X antibody that I searched earlier, which allows me to then play another System 1 CL, and then I will add, I can't add any of them because it needs to be a Huckmon or a Royal Knight. And so now I will activate the Savior Huckmon, I believe, to play another one, which is the Blanc, which allows me to draw a card, and it's 2 checks, another Tamer, and unfortunately a Tumon. So my opponent really not finding an unidentified here, and he's got quite a lot of memory this time, but unfortunately I don't think it matters. I think at this point, as he's played the errata, he just doesn't have an answer. Unfortunately, and so he plays, I believe this is a level 5 from his hand, and yeah, I mean, it's pretty much done at this point. Unfortunately, my opponent just didn't find the pieces that he needed, which does happen, unfortunately. If he was able to find at least some of the pieces, and he had triple errata and Izzy and Joe, he'd be able to do so much more, but unfortunately, in this situation, it looks like he just can't do enough. So I'm just making sure that I can attack safely for game, because I don't want anything like a catastrophe cannon to happen, essentially. And so I swing into security, nothing, dies, swing again, dies again, swing again, and it is game.